Hi, greetings. I'm Ann Smith, and I'll be teaching in Karma this summer, the week of June 10th. Actually, there are two courses that are very complementary this week, so let me tell you about them before I delve into the details of my course. I'll be teaching the first 3 days of this week, the 10th, 11th, and 12th, and I'll be talking about qualitative data analysis, specifically process data studies. After this, on the 13th, 14th, and 15th, Karen Golden-Biddle will be discussing qualitative data analysis, but also linking to her fantastic work on discovery throughout the research process, making theoretical connections as a special emphasis. So Karen Golden-Biddle and I talked together about making our courses complementary. So if you have a project where you really would need some insights and need to get going, or even you're thinking of doing a qualitative study, it might be a nice complement to take these two back to back. But of course, that's up to you. Let me tell you about my course. The name of my session is Novel and Practical Approaches to Analysis of Process Data. So while obviously I'll be leaning on Anne Langley's process analysis techniques for 1999 Academy Management Review, what I would like to bring forth is a broader unfolding of projects and qualitative data analysis over time. I like to use the metaphor that has been used in many other studies, and I'm not coining the phrase, of zooming in and out. This comes from Laughlin and Laughlin, 1995, and we used it in an editorial for Organization Research Methods. It was the editorial before the special issue in ORM that I did with Tina Kohler and Vikram Baku. And we use this term of zooming in and zooming out. Zooming in to get really, really close to the data, and then zooming out to look at general themes. And that's how we actually had an empirical study that we use this technique, and it's really resonated with me. Zooming in to get very close to the data and hear what it's saying, and then zooming out to look at patterns and to think about what's unfolding in this process. So that's the metaphor, the way in which I approach these 3 days. Begin by zooming out broadly on day one to talk about what is qualitative data. Why would you undertake a qualitative research process to study an organizational process? And in doing this and in discussing this, I'll be talking a little bit about a paper that I was an author on, led by Hans Hansen, that recently was published in Organization Research Methods, in which we talk about what is the role of the researcher in an interpretive qualitative approach. And again, I've been very influenced by being involved in this paper, which took 2 or 3 years of work together with this group of 5 other scholars. But we'll be intermingling that with some of the learnings over the 3 days I'll be teaching. So we'll zoom out and talk about why do a qualitative study at all, and then we'll zoom in and do a little exercise on a particular text excerpt that you'll get a sense for what we're doing and what this is all about. We'll zoom out again to talk about and create and identify the context of a project within which we will be reading an interview or listening and reading an interview. So we'll talk about the context of this project, which is really important to understand, and put it into relief with the actual interview. And then we'll zoom in and read a transcript, and it's a publicly available transcript. And we'll talk about how we can get going, and we will get going. We'll be rolling up our sleeves and starting to get our hands dirty. On day 2, I'm going to have you listen to this transcript. So you're going to read it on day 1, but you're going to listen to it. And you're going to write field notes about your experience in listening to this. And that will be another data source that we can integrate as we're moving through this project. We'll begin to zoom in more, looking at coding and tagging text. I'm very much... I really do like what Glenn Kreiner, how he talks about the coding process, and he talks about it as tabula geminis. It's not just in vivo what we see in the text, but also if we see theoretical linkages, tagging the text for that as well. getting in there and coding for the stories that we see, certainly demonstrative quotes. These are things and terms that he uses that I resonate with me and my own experiences in publishing and qualitative research. Well, again, so we'll zoom in and we'll zoom out. Zooming out will be thinking about what analytical artifacts could we utilize in order to begin to see patterns in the data. What do we mean by analytical artifacts? This was described in depth in the Locke, Feldman, and Golden Fiddle 2022 paper in Organization Research Methods, in which they talked about this iterating between coding and creating analytical artifacts. Or an analytical artifact could be a chronology. It could be a vignette that's created from a particular case. It's just ways to begin to stand back and see what's going on in the text. So we'll talk about analytical artifacts. And also on day 2, again, up to this point, we're doing it manually. We're coding with highlighters. We're getting very close to the data. But we will have a discussion about what is the role of computer-aided or assisted qualitative data analysis software. I'm a big believer in learning one package. I'm agnostic which software you choose, and learning it well, preferably the one that is supported by your university. But we'll talk about some tips and tricks with using some of these techniques embedded in these programs. And I'll be talking a little bit about my paper with Paula O'Kane. She's the lead author in Organization Research Methods about 4 or 5 years ago, and Mike Lerman. The three of us worked on this paper about Cactus Techniques, qualitative assisted data analysis software. So we'll be doing that. And day 3, I'm leaving somewhat flexible. I have topics that I'll have ready to roll, but I am going to be curious to hear what you want to know more about, what you want to talk more about. And so we'll be talking about some of those ideas, and also allowing you some time to talk about your project in front of the group. If you feel comfortable with that, you don't have to do this. Sort of like a master class and getting ideas about what's going on in your data. Again, we can also talk about things such as coding photographs and incorporating them into an overall research study. And how would you do that? And how would you incorporate them in your analysis? So we will be talking about some of the papers that I have done, papers that have been a huge influence on me, that are very practical, that are going to give you some tools and techniques from which you should be able to utilize as you move through your research project. Karen Golden-Biddle's session, and she has a separate video on this, in which she'll explain, but she's going to build on the qualitative data analysis, but look at the role of discovery throughout an entire research process. And she's just it will be a lot of fun. And I think they're going to be complementary, and that you'll be able to take away and see how these pieces fit together. And that's our intent. So we hope that works that way. We've not done this before, but when I saw that she had signed up to do a karma class and it was after mine, I thought, wow, that's a chance for students and those that are interested to have this immersive experience over the entire week. So anyway, I hope you consider the karma class, and hope to see you. Thanks for considering it, and good luck on your qualitative research journey.